certainly. And feel free to interrupt me as we go through this as well, too, if there's some questions that are unique to WACCT that there may be as part of the process and that I can elaborate a little bit further on. So I'm happy to do that as well. So
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I'll just kick us off real quickly.
sure.
Everyone, welcome. We are hosting another WACCT webinar, and really our role or our goal with hosting these WACCT webinars is just to get some more information out there to our trustees and folks in our community college family, as I like to call it. We've had lots of interesting guests, and with us here today is Rob Dennis with the Community College Commission. And he is, we like to call him the capital construction guru. I know that's not your title, but I'll let you share that here in a minute. It's the time of the year in the last commission meeting where they do talk about CapCon. And I know for all of our colleges, it's a very important process. And so Rob is going to share some of the latest conversations at the commission, some overall, this is how it all works, and then he'll field some questions for us. So I'll be recording. I'm going to run his presentation, his slides for us. And we have a few resources available for asking questions. You can throw them in the chat. I'll be watching the chat. You can raise your hand on your Zoom, or you can literally raise your hand. I will look for that as well. And so everyone just please be welcome, and be welcome and open to interrupting, as Rob said, and let's just have a nice dialogue here. So thank you, Rob, for being here. I really appreciate it.
And absolutely, Erin, it's my pleasure. And for those that are currently attending the chat, that's great. Raise your hand, ask questions. But for those who are viewing this chat a little bit later on, let me leave you with my email address. You're welcome to reach out to me directly. My email address is very simple. It's Rob, R-O-B, Dennis, D-E-N-N-I-S, at wyo.gov. And you, again, give me a call, reach out if you have any questions about capital measures or capital construction, especially on your campus and how that might evolve over the point in time. So I know that Erin is in the process of bringing up the slides. Is that?
Yep, I'll get
Yep.
it up there.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to kind of steer the ship and talk at the same time, so to speak. So I really appreciate her doing that. And the capital construction process here at the commission, we work very closely and collaborate very closely, of course, with the colleges. And our role primarily within capital construction and working with the colleges is to play kind of traffic cop, if you will, to help prioritize projects by statute for the commission to consider, and then eventually for the state legislature to consider, as well as help kind of determine where there is the most need for the projects across the community college system, and also to help with regard to distributing, well, we don't really distribute, but just allocation of major maintenance projects. So Erin's presenting my presentation right now, and hopefully you can all see it. I see it, so I know it's up and running. What I'm going to do is kind of cover these main points that you see at the top of the list. I'm going to give you a little bit of context for our history and statutes with regard to capital construction. We'll talk about the timeline associated with capital construction, and a lot of this is keyed off of the legislative session. So we're basically backing up the clock, so to speak, from the prior legislative session or from the upcoming legislative session to make sure that we have all of our ducks in line, so that legislators can review and approve our different capital construction projects. I'm going to talk a little bit about the model. We use a new software. Well, it's not a new software. It is kind of, sort of. But we use a pretty intricate model to assess and subjectively, or objectively, I should say, review the capital construction projects that are presented to the commission. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And part of the model includes capital measures. There are 13 measures that the commission has identified that help us prioritize different capital construction projects as they're submitted annually through to the commission. We'll also talk about major maintenance. And I like to think of I've been doing a lot of major maintenance on my own house over the course of this past year. And so knowing that, that kind of helps keep everybody in check as far as the major maintenance that is associated with the community colleges too. We all have furnaces to replace. We all have roofs to replace. We have windows to replace. And so there is a major maintenance calculation and also allocation that comes through to the colleges to address those issues. And then finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the escalation factors. So we're all familiar with inflation, and the inflation associated with capital construction projects, major building projects, has been on the steep incline over subsequent years. And what we will traditionally do with the Community College Commission is we will escalate and adjust our projects based upon inflationary factors. And before we hopped onto the recording, Aaron and I were just chatting a little bit about the impact of not approving capital construction projects through the state legislature over the course of a couple of years. And so what you'll see is that projects that were approved under a certain cost, maybe last year or not approved last year, have to be escalated year to year to year until they're approved, which basically further increases the overall cost of the construction project. There's been 2 years that I'm familiar with, last year, and I think if I stand corrected, I think it was 2021, maybe it was 2020, where our construction bills, our capital construction legislation did not pass, and then those particular projects rolled over for the next year. Well, when you put a project on delay, basically, the costs of doing that or completing that project are escalated from year to year. So it can have a big costly impact by delaying approval of capital construction projects. Okay, Aaron, if you could scroll down just a little bit more, there's two kind of key statutes that we roll off of, so to speak, here at the commission. We at the commission have been designated to identify the community college, or work very closely with the community colleges to identify the building needs and develop a prioritized list of community college capital construction projects. And you'll find that in Wyoming Statute 2118, 225 or 225. So the commission's role is that we are kind of on the receiving end of everybody's potential capital construction projects. The goal with that is that we need to develop a prioritized list for the state legislature to look at with regard to where the most need is objectively, and help the community colleges determine, or help the legislature determine, which are the projects that are out there that we should address first, or that they should address first. It's my understanding, and Aaron could probably share a little bit more context behind this. Before the prioritization was put into legislation, it sounded like the colleges were all kind of, I don't want to say screaming, but lobbying before the state legislature to say, no, 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 my project is more important than, say, Western's project, or Western's project is more important than Casper's project. And the state legislature didn't really know what was up. So this statute basically implements the role of the commission, which is identifying a prioritized list of projects to put before both the state building commission as well as the state legislature. The other role that we have is that we need to approve projects that are in excess of $250,000, and we need to approve projects that are in excess of $1.5 million. And you'll see that that highlighted bullet right there, the legislature's role is that any project, whether regardless of funding source, so if the state is kicking in money, or if, let's say, there's a solely funded, self-funded project on a college campus, that $1.5 million threshold, anything that exceeds that needs to be approved by the state legislature. So right now, for example, LCCC is seeking approval for one of their building facade projects that is in excess of $1.5 million, but they are self-funding that. So they're seeking that. So if there's something comes up, the state has to look at it if it exceeds $1.5 million. Typically, with a project that's exceeding $1.5 million, the college will also be looking to see if they can get some state support for that particular project. And for these particular projects, the state will traditionally contribute approximately 50% of the overall project cost, and then the other half will be contributed by the institution, either through private funds or institutionally generated funds, or whatever they can glean, maybe grant funding. They might receive grant funding for the projects. Recently, with some recent legislation, this was about 2 years ago, the commission has to approve all projects in excess of $250,000. So if a college wants to make a change to something, for example, Western is recently updating their library, and that cost, I think, for that project was about $700,000. They need to run it by the commission, definitely, to see if the commission is interested in it and feels that it meets particular aspects of the function and the system or whatever. So it's kind of an accountability measure. So anything that's in excess of $250,000, the commission needs to review and approve before the college can undertake construction on that. That level, that threshold used to be at $100,000, and our good former executive director used to say, and I can hear her words ring true in my head even time I say it, is a college can't even build a vestibule for under $100,000. And so the commission was able to, with some good help with our friends over at the state legislature, and I'm sure with WACCT's help too, was able to raise that threshold up to $250,000 because projects are just getting so expensive. And I'm going to jump back to the 1.5 million threshold as well for a while there for a second, because if something exceeds $1.5 million and the legislature approves it, that means it also would become eligible to receive major maintenance funding. And major maintenance is funded a little bit differently in the community college system than it is in other locations. So I'm going to pause there just briefly and see if anybody has any questions about the legislature's role in all of this. And I'm going to walk through the timeline. But these are kind of the two hallmark pieces of statutes that we take a look at and explore as we and kind of drive our process.
Are there any questions at this point for Rob?
Okay, so we can come back to these statutes. I'm sorry, did I interrupt somebody?
No, I just said thank you. I'm glad you mentioned the increase in the threshold for $250,000, Rob, because that was something the commission brought forward to say, we could have a little autonomy here, and price escalations and things like that have impacted the college's ability to do smaller projects like that. So it was a tiny little win, but it matters, right? And
It
so,
did matter. It really
yeah.
did matter. And I don't know when the original legislation that designated $100,000 was passed, but I'm going to guess it was probably in the mid 90s. And if anybody's looked at the cost of housing prices now, I mean, the house that you bought in the mid 90s is probably worth 3 times as much if you were to buy that same house today. So it's just a point of comparison. It gives the colleges some more flexibility. It also gives the commission some more flexibility too, and it allows for a more efficient process.
One
So,
more thing, Rob, that I
oh
would
yeah,
just add quickly. So, trustees, as you're talking to your legislators, the point that Rob made earlier about, making sure the commission has this established annual process by ranking projects. They coordinate with the State Building Commission. That's what I do and how I explain how we do this every year. He's right. It used to be a free for all, or whatever we want to say, whoever had the loudest, best lobbying tactics or the most powerful legislator. I mean, even with the ranking, we still have projects kind of slipped in there from time to time with the legislators purview, but this process works. And that is the message I really try and hone in on with lawmakers, is that this has provided structure. It's not a willy-nilly, this is it 13 points that are the ranking process. That this is well thought out and it's well coordinated with the State Building Commission. So those are the sort of things that I talk about, rather than just the project, which is important, but I talk about the process as well.
absolutely, absolutely. And you'll see this as we talk a little bit later about measures and prioritization. It's a very objective process. So here is a little bit of a flow chart in terms of these statutes and what to do if you're a college, you're coming to the commission with a project, regardless of price, what to do with that particular projects and the steps that would follow through it. And kind of there's two key deciding points here. And it is whether or not the project exceeds $250,000, as we previously discussed, as well as if the project exceeds 1.5. If the project is between $250,000 and 1.5 million, basically it follows the route down the left side or the left column that you see on your screen. If it's in excess of 1.5 million, then it goes down the right column on the screen. So if the project cost from a college is being presented to the commission is between $250,000 and $1.5 million, that project typically is not in need of also state funding. So basically, what ends up happening is that the commission can consider that project during any meeting. It's not specific to the April meeting or the June meeting or the whatever meeting. During any meeting, the commission will review it. The president typically or traditionally would make a brief presentation and include a variety of different documents supporting this project. The commission will review it, consider it, and then more than likely approve it, or if there's some serious concerns, not approve it. And then once the commission approves it, then the project can move on to work very closely with the State Building Commission. When I first started, I always got the State Building Commission confused with the State Construction Department, who is, kind of on first sort of thing. So think of the State Construction Department being the equivalent of the commission, the Wyoming Community College Commission, in terms of orchestrating out whatever the State Building Commission approves. They're kind of like the project managers. They're the general contractors. They're the folks that work very closely on your campuses with the individual projects, as well as with the associate vice presidents or the vice presidents for finance, the administrative services group. So if the project is approved by the commission, that being the Wyoming Community College Commission, and it is between $250,000 and $1.5 million, then the state construction department will work very closely with the representatives on your campus to bring that project into full completion, basically. These are the folks that have the expertise behind managing large-scale construction projects and are also have the expertise behind what is all on your campuses with regard to construction. So that's the short route, right? That's the really simplistic route, and that's anything between 250,000 and 1.5 million. Now, the process on the right side of the column of the sheet is a little more complex. So anything in excess of 1.5 million needs to have full legislative approval. It needs to go from the commission to the state construction department, which then will relay it on to the state building commission, which will consider it and consider the needs in context with all the other construction projects that are going on across the state. So this would be projects that are associated with Bureau of Prisons or state corrections. It would be in association with the university. It would be in association with state parks. It would be in association with schools, K-12 system. So this is where we're basically building, no pun intended there, we're building upon all of the needs that the state has, and it's the state building commission that takes a look and prioritizes those projects as well. So traditionally, if a college has a project in excess of $1.5 million, they're already starting to explore these projects over time. And before the presentation started here, before this presentation started, Aaron, Kathy Dolan, and I were talking about the Casper's projects that they have in the hopper or have had in the hopper for some time. So traditionally, if a college has a project of that scope, and I see you've got a question there, Bob. So if college has a project of that scope, 1.5 million or in excess, they will probably bring it into the commission's eyes, or what's the word I'm looking for? Commission's perspective, so to speak, for consideration during the month of April, and actually maybe even prior to that, starting in February. And then there's this big buildup for the commission to consider the project at the June meeting. That is traditionally when the commission will consider these big, large format projects. We'll also have at that point run them through the capital construction model, which helps prioritize them. After the project is prioritized in light of other projects across the community college system, that is presented then and forwarded on to the state construction department and the state building commission. And to just give you a little bit of an update, we are in the middle of that process right now with having forwarded Casper's projects on up, as well as the projects that were approved last year. And it may seem kind of like unusual, and it is really unusual to have the state building commission reconsider these projects that were approved last year. And we're having to do that because last year's state legislature did not, or this last, how can I characterize this? The state, at the last legislative session, that occurred earlier this year, the capital construction bill, which included all the projects approved last year by the commission, was not passed during the state legislature. I'm sure Aaron can probably explain that a little more clearly. I'm always kind of getting my timelines mixed up because we've got, last year, this upcoming year. And so we're having to go back and represent before the State Building Commission all of last year's projects, which did not get approved.
Thank you for that, Rob. Yes, I'll just give a little bit of color commentary.
Sure.
But I'll keep it vanilla, I promise. CapCon, it's a budget bill basically, right? There's a lot of dollars in it, and it includes all the state buildings as well, as the college buildings. And it can therefore become a political football. I'm just gonna say it like it is. And due to the very big conversations around property tax relief and the impacts of what that was going to look like, even the supplemental budget was in question. Now that did end up passing, but both were very reduced. Even the capital CapCon bill, as it passed out of the House, was greatly reduced as it was presented originally and originally written. The Senate at that point refused to work on the CapCon bill, suggesting that all of this ties together. If we're going to really talk about budget cuts, let's be honest about what that means. People need to understand what it means to cut property taxes and the services that are relied on for those. And so it's a bigger conversation than just about CapCon. That's, I guess, my point. So yes, what Rob said earlier, only the second year that's happened in my career. The first time I think was 2020. I think I almost jumped off the balcony in the Senate the year that bill died.
Well, I'm glad you didn't, Aaron, because yeah, we need you.
Thing that bill doesn't pass. So I'm glad you've been talking about it like that.
Yeah. So anyway, everything that is new this year, it was actually new last year and is kind of back, and then there's some more to it, right? So the goal of this process is to tee everything up so that the state legislature can consider it during the February session of the following year or the next year. If the state legislature approves it, if we approve it, if the State Building Commission approves it, and if it's fully funded, then the college can commence with construction and complete the project. Sometimes these projects take years and years and years to just get through the process. Sometimes they're delayed, and they can be delayed by any number of factors. But it's a pretty lengthy process. You just can't go in and say, "Oh, I want to build a building," and then 6 months later just start breaking ground and building a building. So it's all driven. A lot of it's driven by the legislature. All right, let's go down to the next slide there. And one other thing I just want to reiterate, you'll see that little blue box that was up above about major maintenance. So projects that are budgeted for major maintenance, that is a whole separate process. And we'll talk a little bit about this later. So anyway, there's major maintenance. Okay, so here's just kind of a quick rundown of the annual timeline that we go through with regard to considering state construction or community college system projects. The first thing we do is we take and confirm that each college's actual gross square footage inventory is updated and current. We've got an inventory of every square foot on every college campus assigned to a particular space code. I mean, I could go into one building on any of your campuses and say, okay, this corner is assigned to that. This corner is assigned to computer labs. This corner is assigned to athletics. It's just an amazing inventory of the square footage that we have across the community college system. And so we start to work very closely with the colleges to make sure that they have all of their inventory updated and it is clearly in our system. Then we'll start to look at identifying new projects. And I love to catch wind of new projects early on, working very closely with your colleagues there at the colleges to make sure that we don't miss anything. And then each one of the colleges has a campus master plan. I have to have updated copies of those campus master plans on file before we even begin this process. Bob, you asked a great question. Yes, that inventory is publicly available. We don't make it publicly available per se, but if you would like to work with Rick, say at LCCC, he can print you off a report. I can print you off a report. You know, we work hand in hand in terms of making that inventory publicly available. And that inventory is kind of critical because it factors into our major maintenance calculations as well as it helps us objectively prioritize these projects. As of April 1st, we'll start to collect data from the colleges on a couple of other things that are really important to the prioritization. We look at the library inventory. We look at the employees, the number of employees and what their role is on the college campuses. And of course, we look at enrollment. The colleges are responsible for submitting all of that data to me as of April 1. And that information is all inputted into our software package to evaluate, again, based on 13 measures, which particular project there's the greatest need. And then starting the last 2 weeks in April, the colleges will have access to our software package and they can actually go in and update and submit these new projects for the current year in to be prioritized. April 30th, that model is closed. The colleges no longer have the opportunity to make changes. And we run basically what we call a census date. So we'll take a snapshot of the complete square footage across the system. And also we close that model entry. And it gives us the opportunity to objectively look at the system as a whole at one particular point in time, which would be essentially May 1st. After May 1st, or shortly right after May 1st, like maybe even May 2nd, we'll run the model, which actually objectively scores all of these projects that are new into the system and ranks them based upon 13 criteria. And then we'll evaluate the model results and we'll present it at the June meeting. And we'll forward that along to the colleges so that they know how their projects scored objectively either against one another or against colleges, the other colleges in their particular projects. And then the whole goal is to build this all up to June 6th so that the commission can vote on these projects and on the rankings because we are statutorily obligated to give all of this information or turn all of this information over to the state construction department as of June 1st so that they can continue on with the rest of the legislative cycle that we just briefly touched on earlier. I'm going to just pause there for a quick second and see if we got any more questions. Okay, I know our time's limited, so I'm going to kind of keep moving here. We had a capital construction software program that was originally designed and built in 2012. When I first came on, that kind of got to be my trial by fire with the commission in terms of trying to run that program. The software had not been updated since 2012, and we were running into a whole series of computer glitches. You can imagine just what that might be like if you had taken your project or your home Windows program and hadn't updated it at all since 2012, right? If you'd still trying to be running the same program and how that would work. So during the 2023 legislative session, we went out for an exception request and we had about $300,000 that was approved to help in building a new customized software solution. There is no off-the-shelf software solution. We can't just run down to Office Max and get this software program that is as intricate as it needs to be. So we've been contracting with a firm, a company called MBS Data Solutions. They developed a two-phase approach to reinventing the software. And as of today, we are just finally wrapping up all phases, all aspects of that software program. It's an extremely powerful tool. I'm really pleased with the progress that we've made on it. I was having some fun last Friday and Thursday, testing out some of the reports that are being run. And this software tool will project your enrollments out on a 5-year rolling average. It will project out building needs. It will project out square footage needs. So, I mean, we can have a lot of fun with this in terms of helping put together your campus master plans and kind of looking into the future and saying, is there really something that are we going to grow over here? Or are we going to grow over there? So that's a whole different rabbit trail. But know that we now have a extremely powerful tool that we can work with you on, not only to develop the need for a project on the campus right now across the system, but if you're kind of looking into the future to see what needs to be changed, that can be utilized in the future. All right, we're going to move on down to the next slide. And after we've completed this general timeline and the colleges have submitted their projects into our software model, these are the measures in which we objectively prioritize these projects back and forth against one another. I'm going to run through them really quickly because there's 13 of them. The existing assigned square footage and the amount of time or the amount of student that is actually using that square footage. The classroom utilization. You know, do you need to build more classrooms? Do you not need to build more classrooms? We also take a look at library space or laboratory space. Same thing. We'll take a look at the total projected space needs for a college over 5 years relative to enrollment and other things. We'll look at projected instructional needs over 5 years. We'll look at change in student FTE, not headcount, but FTE. We'll look at changes in projected change in student FTE over the past 5 years. We'll look at the projected population change in the service area. And our populations have remained relatively flat, if not declining. We'll also look, just as I know there's a lot of focus right now on the adult students, we take a look at the projected population change of adult students. That's factored into this model, not just your traditional student age group. We'll see how the project supports the state's the WCC statewide strategic plan. We'll look at how the project will support high growth programs or high demand programs. We'll see how the project supports the college's master plan. Of course, we'll take a look at life, safety, and health issues in these buildings, right? So if a building is falling apart and it needs to be pulled away, then there's a ranking that the new building will give, the model will give this new building to address life, safety, and health issues. And of course, we'll take a look at the condition of the existing space. So all of these factors are plugged into this model, and I don't know, you know, it's like a fine-tuned engine. The last thing I want to do is get underneath the hood and start pulling wires and pulling things out to screw it up. But it's an intricate model, it's a very objective model, and it helps us prioritize out where the greatest need is for the individual projects. Aaron's going to advance down to the next slide, and I just have reiterated here on this next slide. This is, I think if there's one subjective point in the whole entire model, it's how that project stacks up against the statewide system strategic plan. And there are actually 6 measures in there, and we have an objective rubric that's presented above you there on the screen, that the college will actually go in and self-score against that rubric for each of the measures that are associated with the strategic plan. So the system strategic plan is also instrumental and incorporated into this. And I believe it is by statute that the system strategic plan is incorporated into this as well. So, well, I'm not going to hang on that a little bit, but the goal of this is to get to a scoring and ranking as each project and have it all prioritized back and forth against one another. And so this, I don't remember which project that is my example here, but you'll see in the score reports these 13 measures and then how the eventual overall score, which is down at the bottom and kind of highlighted in a little bit of a light blue. Um, and so we'll present each project receives a similar scoring rubric like this and is presented to the commission in a similar fashion. And that will all be detailed, and you can see kind of what's going on with that. The ultimate goal is to come up with a list that we'll see here. And this is for, these are projects that were last year's, that were scored out last year's on the old software platform. And we had 6 projects presented to us last year. They were individually run through the model and scored. And so the need for Cheyenne's building facade on the outside of the automotive technology building scored the highest. So that demonstrated the most need and was prioritized as the highest as far as projects that needed to go forward. And then the lowest was some changes to the Riverton campus, including a new industrial maintenance and construction technology building. Now, that's not to say that the state would not approve or would kind of cherry pick these things through, but the idea here is that we have the greatest need over time and prioritize these projects. So a state legislator can look at those and then kind of make a determination on where money should be spent. And in the last year, money wasn't spent because the legislation did pass. So that's a simplistic description. Bob, you have a question. So this suggests the college must provide 50% before it proceeds. Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but ideally the college will have secured 50% of the funding cost for that project before it proceeds, right? It'll at least have identified what the sources of that 50, their share is going to be, whether it's institutional funds, whether it's foundation funds, whether it's a private or public grant. So they will potentially, they'll identify where those funds are coming from to proceed forward on that project. They may be in the process of trying to raise the funds for that. Colleges also have the opportunity to start projects and then they may defer the project after it starts. And so we'll come up with what we call a multi-year prioritization as well. And you'll see on this screenshot the year that the project was prioritized. So like, for example, the CWC Jackson Outreach Center, that was first prioritized back in 2014. NWC's Visual Arts Performing Arts Center is still being prioritized, and that was started in 2018. They have yet to even break ground on that, and they have yet to actually go in and request funding on it. So, so we'll go multiple years depending upon how quickly these projects are being completed and or passed through the state legislature. And this multi-year prioritization becomes a huge piece, especially when we've prioritized last year's projects. We're going to present them all in unison with this year's projects to the state legislature this coming year. So I kind of quickly ran through that one. I'm going to talk a little bit now. I'm going to shift gears here. We're going to talk about escalating project costs. So as you just saw, projects will continually roll from year to year to year to year. They can either be delayed or the college can have those projects delayed from one year over the other. But we work very closely with the state construction department to identify an annual inflationary state construction factor. So the project costs will escalate or be inflated by an annual percentage year to year. And that goes up and down, right? So, and I think a good evidence of this is that you can see that on this example. So projects that were not completed in 2018 or even started in 2018 rolled to 2019, and those projects were increased by 5%. 2019 to 2020, 5%. 2020 to 2021, that was the year of COVID, and we all experienced significant inflation within the state and outside of the state, and our projects also grew by that. So basically, what we will do is we will increase the costs of an individual project from year to year to year based upon this inflationary factor, and the commission will approve that because they have to approve anything that's in excess of $1.5 million. So you can see if the Casper College visual, which is now actually completed, but you can see how the Casper College Visual Arts project went to an original approved project cost of $15 million, all the way up to $19.2 million in 2021. Same's true with this LCCC Residence Hall. Started out at $28 million and it went up to $32 million. So there are opportunity costs if a project is delayed or deferred, thereby increasing the costs. And I know that this is a particular concern to Aaron and the state legislature and to you all as WACCT, because all the projects that were approved last year also got escalated up. And I don't have those figures right now in front of me, but I'm happy to share that information with you as far as how the 4 projects at LCCC that were approved last year, as well as the Sheridan College Math and Science Building project, as well as the CWC project, all went up a particular factor. We inflated those automatically 6% from last year. So, if you delay in terms of building these projects, it's going to cost you more. It's going to cost you more. Bob's question is, does the state match escalate automatically? No. So if the project exceeds that $1.5 million and it's approved at $1.5 million, let's say the project is approved, $750,000 of that is borne on the college, and $750,000 of that is borne on the state. And it escalates another year or two, then the institution has to separately come up with the funds for that escalation. So the cost stays at what the state approves it at, the state legislature approves it at. But if there's delays and it takes a while to get the project done, the final cost, the institution will have to bear out. Good question, Bob. That was a good one. All right, another secondary topic is major maintenance. This is for funding those things like replacing roofs, replacing carpeting, replacing HVAC. We basically identify what a particular, using the inventory that we have, the square footage inventory that we have for all of the colleges, we take a look at the replacement costs of our buildings on all of the college campuses and what it would be if we were to buy or build new as of today, what that it would cost us to build that facility new. What I always am intrigued by is that bottom number to the left of the arrow, the green arrow that you see. If we were to build, as of 2024, if we were to build new on every facility on every college campus, the state basically has a value, an inventory value of 1.4 billion in that's with a big B in terms of buildings on the campus. To figure out what we need to maintain that, we provide the state construction department a percentage of that, which is 2.5% of that replacement cost to kind of identify what the costs of our major maintenance should be to maintain and overall replace things that get old and outdated. And so then that goes through a separate budget process, and the state legislature will approve or decline or adjust at will the actual major maintenance money that is appropriated to the colleges. Then the commission, that money goes to state construction, but we here at the commission help allocate that money out to individual colleges. And I don't remember if on the allocation is I included a shot of the allocation. Yeah, I did. Okay, so if you scroll down a little farther, Aaron, you can see where the distribution of major maintenance dollars is allocated out to each particular campus based upon the type of buildings they have, the type of square footage they have, and basically on the type of square footage and the types that they build. So each college will receive a separate appropriation or allocation of major maintenance dollars, and then the college will work individually with the state construction department to complete their major maintenance on their college campuses. So we're basically kind of playing traffic cop here as far as those allocations go. It's kind of similar, quite honestly, to the allocation model for funding for the state grant, if you will, and then that's a whole separate process. So basically, we go through this and help determine what that allocation will be and where it lands. All of this is incorporated into our capital facilities handbook, and these copies are readily available. I'm happy to send these off to anybody and everybody. We do need to do a little bit of updating on the capital facilities handbook now that we have this new software platform together. But yeah, that's also available for you. And of course, any of these documents are available to you because it's public information, right? So I'm gonna stop there because we're at the top of the hour, and I tend to talk a lot and long, and see if we have any questions or if there's any follow-up remarks that anybody would be interested in making.
Hi, Rob, this is Kathy Dolan. Do you have a list of the CapCon projects, all of the projects that the commission considered at their June meeting?
Yes, I do. I do. And that will be available, both it's in the agenda from this past June meeting, and you can click on the associated links within the agenda to see what the projects were. And also, we can go back in minutes and pull those projects as well from former years.
But in the do you have a record of how they were ranked at the June meeting?
Oh yeah, that's all presented. That was all presented at the June meeting. So I'd encourage you, Kathy, to go back to the agenda off of our website, and you're welcome to pull up. I can't remember which tab it is in the June meeting agenda, but all the information's there. And I'll tell you what, Kathy, after we get done here, I'll send you links to all that information.
I just pulled up the website. I remember looking at the agenda, but
yeah,
I'll look at the menu of meetings.
Yeah, it's in the agenda.
Sometimes after the meeting is over, you can't see agendas.
I think they just move it to a different place on the website. If you could
That's
send that
exactly
out,
what
Rob,
happens.
I can also send that out as part of our follow-up with the recording.
Well, okay, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll shoot that out to you, Kathy, and it is all available on the website. And then typically a meeting after the meeting, the following meeting, the commission approves the minutes, and then that's all reposted again on the website
That's
too. So
reposted after
yeah,
they
yeah,
approve the minutes, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, Rob, thank you. Comments in the chat said this is very enlightening. I know it's not always a fun subject, but it's so detailed and there's a lot of information. And the process, once you understand it, can be pretty understandable. So you have definitely helped with that. And I know that the trustees will appreciate that as we get this information out there. So Rob, thank you. I'll send the recording. I'll also send that link to the latest action or tab in the commission agenda as well.
Absolutely. That'd be grateful for that, Aaron. And again, I'm always available, and I know you are too, to help with this process. And it can be pretty confusing. It took me a couple of years to kind of understand the intricacies of it. So yes, we want to be here, be a resource for you all.
Thank you. This concludes
Thank you,
our
Ron.
Thank you.
June WACCT webinar. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Bye now.